locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Let me holla at you, player.
Who's that supposed to be?
Well, that's Teddy Long.
All right. You know, now you're going like obscure, so that I don't even know if this is accurate or not. I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge that you have of every wrestler ever born and to have a career.
Let me tell you something. Teddy Long is the greatest SmackDown general manager of all time.
Can someone else produce this part of the show?
Oh, give me a break.
I just can't take these impressions anymore.
Give me a break.
It's like a slow drip of water on my forehead. It's like every week. And one day I'm going to snap. So just be prepared. Just be prepared.
This guy has completely lost his mind. Listen, welcome back to Duke Loves Wrestling. I am the Duke, and yes, I enjoy doing pro wrestler impersonations, and I'm going to keep on doing it no matter what my illustrious host, the Boston bad boy, Iron Mike Pelosi, says.
Wait till I get the fans on my side.
Yeah.
You'll be singing a different tune. Well, just put it to you that way.
I don't know about that, because let me tell you what just happened to me this past weekend.
Okay? I can't wait.
The Teddy Long, the player himself, he personally gave me a call.
And gave you the right to do an impression of him badly?
Well, I don't know if he knew I
doubt
did
you
the
discussed.
impersonation.
Yeah, you didn't discuss that.
I left that out of the conversation.
How convenient.
Yeah, so please, Teddy, don't beat me up here. But what he did do is he gave me a lot of words of encouragement. He appreciates what we're doing here, and shout out to Teddy and his lovely wife. You are an inspiration. You're very kind, sir, and I appreciate you, and we'll definitely be talking again real soon. Listen, I'm going to tell you, this is a huge episode for us, folks. We have more of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask Duke. But we also have, get this, the Trainer of Champions. We're talking about Rudy Boy Gonzalez. He's going to join us during this episode here. All of that, plus we're going to run the ropes. But before we get to any of that, I have to remind you to check out bookprowrestlers.com. That's bookprowrestlers.com. A reminder, this is it. This upcoming Sunday, September 11th, the Great San Antonio Bash. That's right, Steve Stasiak has let me know that they signed a major match. Listen to this. TNA's own EC3 going up against Caribbean Cool Carlito. That's going to be a huge one, as the old-timers would say, a Pier 6 brawl. Head over to bookprowrestlers.com for more information. See you at the matches. All right, let's run the ropes. We're talking the 5 top stories in the world of professional wrestling. Will WrestleStar 3 be the greatest event in the history of Asian pro wrestling? The International Pattaya Showdown, WrestleStar 3, that's a 2-day event that's happening on November 18th and 19th. Folks, this is a joint event sponsored by Middle Kingdom Wrestling China, ABC Pro Wrestling Thailand, Kingdom Wrestling Federation Thailand, and there's even wrestlers coming from Wrestle Square, India. I mean, this is just huge. You got to check out MiddleKingdomWrestling.com for more info. Sasha Banks makes a huge announcement. Folks, we were on the edge of our seats here as Sasha Banks made her return to Raw, and she made a big announcement. Now, some people were worried that she was going to retire, but instead, she announced she'll be challenging Charlotte for the WWE Women's Championship at the Clash of Champions. Now, that's happening September 25th on the WWE Network. Check it out. Wade Barrett has signed with a new company. That's right, folks. You're hearing it here. Stu Bennett, a.k.a. the former Wade Barrett in WWE, he signed to Ring of Honor Wrestling. Now, given their relationship to New Japan Pro Wrestling, one can only imagine he's going to make a huge splash all over the world. The Usos have a new attitude. It seems so. Over on SmackDown Live, the Usos lost a major match with American Alpha. At the end of the match, they attacked them, and then they let everybody know something has to change. They're going from the top babyface team in the whole company to one of the most hated. Stay tuned. Will AJ Styles win the WWE Championship? AJ is set to face Dean Ambrose at Clash of Champions later this month. A win over Dean Ambrose means not only is he the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, he is essentially the king of the mountain. This would be a major, major feather in his cap and would put AJ in a position where he would be a future Hall of Famer. Folks, you must stay tuned because this is going to be one of the biggest stories of the year here. And that does it for Run the Ropes. As always, you can check out Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook for all the updated information on these stories and so much more. Up next, we have him. That's right. We're talking about Rudy Boy Gonzalez.
See, you do it to a concert and just don't care, but one thing I do care about is Duke's wrestling. And I tell you what, the guy has nothing but love for the business.
Folks, we had such a great time last week with Steve Do It To It Cox. Came back and he spoke about the realism of pro wrestling. And if you head over to the YouTube at Duke Loves Rasslin, you can hear that episode and all of the past episodes. But this week, we have a guy who has affected the careers of, get this, Daniel Bryan, the Brian Kendrick, Paul London, Lance Cade. I mean, we're talking about who's who the past 16 years in professional wrestling. Folks, this guy has trained them all. In fact, we call him the trainer of champions. I'm talking about none other than Rudy Boy Gonzalez. Rudy, it is such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate
Yes, sir. Let's
invite me to your show.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Let's dig right into this here. Before you became a trainer, you actually started off in the business as a wrestler. How did you break in?
Actually, I started in the business as the ring guy. I set the ring up and passed out flyers and sold T-shirts at the wrestling shows and all that stuff. I mean, if you really, really want to get into the nitty-gritty part of it. But I got into wrestling business by accident. Actually, I mean, I played college football, junior college football, and I came home for my Christmas break, and my high school football coach, I had a talk with him, and he actually directed me to a guy that was starting a wrestling school here in San Antonio. And, he specifically told me, I'm not trying to get you into pro wrestling. I just want you to go, just go out there and train with the guys and stuff until you go back to school.
Give you something to do, huh?
Yeah, I mean, because back then in San Antonio, we're talking about like the early '80s. Like now, there's like 20 different Gold's gyms and there's Anytime Fitness and CrossFit here, CrossFit there. Back then it wasn't like that. There were a few gyms, and either way, I mean, it was like $50 a month or whatever it was for membership. And I didn't have that kind of money. Plus, it was only going to be for a couple of weeks. And so he said, "Well, go check out this place, and I'm sure if you tell them that I sent you, they'll let you train there." And I said, "Sure, no problem." So I go to the office, and the lady there is sitting there. It's a Saturday morning, and she sits at the desk, and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'm here to see Mr. Blanchard." And she said, "What's the purpose?" And I said, "I want to talk to him about wrestling, about training." And she said, "Well, leave your name and number, and he'll call you when he comes in." I said, "Okay, my name is Rudy Gonzalez, and my phone number is whatever it was, And she said, "Okay." I said, "Can you tell him that my football coach told me to come by to see him?" And then in the back of that office, in another office behind towards the back of the building, I hear, "Who's your football coach?" And I was like, "Holy cow, who's that?" So I tell him, George Pashachek. And then he goes, "How's Big George doing?" And I'm talking to nobody. She's looking at me, and I don't know who the heck I'm talking to. I'm like, "He's doing fine. Come on back here." So she goes, go down through this doorway and take a left and whatever. So I go back there, and Joe is in this big office. Behind him is a huge, like SCW, Southwest Championship Wrestling thingy on the wall. And he's sitting there with his feet up on the desk, and he goes, how can I help you? And I said, my name is Rudy Gonzalez. I'm going to school, and I went to go see my football coach at the, see how he's doing. He said to come by here. I need a place to train for a little while. And he goes, well, it just so happens I'm starting a wrestling school. He goes, you're not looking to be a wrestler, are you? Oh, no. I said, no. I just want to come train for a couple of weeks till I do go back to school. And I'm gone.
So how did you get to the point where you actually got in the ring?
We were getting ready to do TV. Matches started at 8 o'clock. It was like 7:55. And this guy, Al Perez, comes walking out of the dressing room.
Al Perez, wow.
He comes up to me. Again, just back then, he was just Al Perez. And today it's like, holy cow. I drove with these guys and whatever. So he comes up, he goes, hey, what size shoes you wear? And I was like, I wear 10.5. He goes, what size shorts you wear? I said, wear medium. He says, come on, let's go. I go where? He goes, don't worry about it, just come on. I go, well, I got to ring the bell. He goes, put the hammer down, let's go. So he takes me to the back. All the guys are in the back dressing up and stuff. Luke Williams, who was the booker, one of the bushwhackers or sheepherds at the time.
That's right.
He goes, oh, anybody got a pair of 10.5 boots? Anybody got a pair of medium trunks? And Eric Embry throws a pair of boots at me.
Eric Embry, my good USWA legend, Eric Embry.
Yes. Bobby Fulton.
Oh, fantastic.
Throws me a pair of trunks. Here you go, brother. And there I am. Put these on. I ain't got time. Put them on. So, I don't even know how to put a pair of boots on. I don't know. There's like 20 different shoelace holes. And so to be honest with you, like, my match was probably 8 minutes. It was a tag match, me and a kid named Manny Villalobos. We wrestled against the Sheepherders. They were the World Tag Team Champions of whatever promotion, organization we were part of. And our match was, like I said, 8 minutes. I have no idea what we did. That 8 minutes seemed like, 5 seconds. Things just went by so fast. I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to, anything. Before I knew it was over with.
Wow.
Yeah, and so.
Welcome to the business, kid.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a quick question here, because you've given us a lot in that amount of time. I mean, just to even decipher, you were with the who's who of that time period in pro wrestling. We're talking about the guys who were some of the best workers on the planet, and you were so young you didn't even realize who was teaching you the basics there. Is it important in your view, a guy like you that's been in the business for 30 years plus, is it important to start at such a basic level, such a low level? You were a guy who was just setting up the ring, and what is the importance of that as far as developing into a pro wrestler?
One of the first things Joe Blanchard told me was, don't expect nothing. You're going to work your ass off, but don't expect nothing. And when you reach that mentality, everything that comes to you is like a gift. I put the ring up, tore it down. I did flyers. I did I sold T-shirts. I rang the bell. I picked up guys, the fabulous ones, the Zambui Express, Austin Idol, Randy Savage. I picked up those guys, Carlos Colon. I picked up those guys from the airport.
Wow.
Drove them around.
You started from the bottom. You literally started from the bottom.
Exactly. And, if I would have showed up with these guys late somewhere, it wouldn't have been just them being late. A show would have been affected. Their pay would be affected.
And the fans may not come back after that.
Exactly.
Wow. Big lessons here. But let me transition you for a second here, because there you were in such a hot territory, working with the who's who in pro wrestling during that early 80s period there. And I mean, all of these guys went on to be major successes in the NWA territory and also in the, at the time, the WWF and all over the world, really. You eventually transitioned where you even made it into some matches in the WWF, correct? Because
of the people that I ran into and met along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they figured I was dependable. I don't know. I really don't know what the purpose was, but I got a call from a guy named Dusty Wolf.
Yep.
Who's still my friend today.
Good man. Dusty Wolf, good man.
And he said they need some guys for TV. And when he said they, at that time, they was WWF.
That's right.
They didn't have to say the initials. They didn't have to say. He just said they need some guys for TV. They'll cover your flight, hotel, whatever. Oh yeah, sure, I'll go. Yeah.
What did that feel like? What did that feel like when you heard an offer like that?
It really didn't sink in until none of this stuff really, I guess even for guys now, doesn't sink in. You may get that phone call, but it doesn't sink in until you walk to the back of the building and you walk by Macho Man, or you see the tour bus of Hulk Hogan.
Wow.
Or you walk by Honky Tonk Man, or you walk by, Miss Elizabeth, or you walk by and they shake your hand. Hey, brother.
All the people that you saw on TV, and you're walking into a locker room with all those folks.
I'm not going to lie. Some guys look at you like, you're the scum of the earth. But for the most part, guys walk by you and, hey, brother, they knew what you were there for. They knew, they knew you weren't there to take their spot. You were there to help them create a bigger spot for themselves.
That's right. Shine them up. You were there to be,
Exactly.
a talent that could make them look good in the ring.
Exactly.
So that they can continue to push the business up,
Exactly.
But it doesn't happen without a guy with your skill set.
So exactly. You have to, I just had this conversation with my students yesterday. You have to be honest with yourself. When I started wrestling, I wasn't a bodybuilder guy. I'm still not. I just learned to work my tail off and to do whatever job that needed to be done in the ring, to do it to the best of my ability.
The importance of hard work.
Sure. And, and Joe told me, as long as you work hard, years ago, told me, as long as you work your ass off, as long as you work hard and you're dependable, someone will always want to use you.
You eventually met a guy by the name of Shawn Michaels.
As a matter of fact, I believe the first match he had when he turned on Shawn on Brett. What am I saying?
Marty.
On
Marty Jannetty. Yeah.
Was against me.
Oh.
When after he does, and that was the same. I want to say that was the same taping, or it might have been like the next day. But he did he kicked him through the window, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the first match he did when he came out with Sherry Martel was against me.
That is a historic moment in pro wrestling history. Let me back up for a second here. Shawn Michaels was part of the tag team, The Rockers, which is one of the hottest tag teams in all of pro wrestling. They were in the WWF. Shawn Michaels felt that he needed to branch off and go his own way, and he felt that Marty Jannetty was dead weight. So during, I believe it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake's interview segment, Shawn Michaels super kicks his partner, Marty Jannetty, through a window. And that essentially is it. They're broken up. So the first time that Shawn Michaels goes out on his own, he gets a new manager, the legendary Hall of Famer, God rest her soul, sensational Sherry Martel. Shawn comes to the ring with Sherry, and his first opponent on his own is Rudy Boy Gonzalez.
Correct.
That is tremendous. That is absolutely tremendous. Wow. So let me take us and fast forward a little bit. I'm going to take you to WrestleMania 14. Shawn Michaels has gone from just some kid down in Texas working out and wrestling to literally the top guy in the business, or at least one of them. He is the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. His body is banged up and beaten. In fact, his back is basically junk. this guy just really needs to take some time off. But he has to have one more match at WrestleMania, and he faces Stone Cold Steve Austin. Michaels drops the belt to Austin, and then he hangs up the boots. He's done. And he's arrested his back, and there's no guarantee that he'll ever even come back and wrestle again. During that time, he decides to open up a wrestling academy, and he's looking for guys to help him out. And he gets some of the best and brightest in the business. And he turns to a guy by the name of Rudy Boy Gonzalez and names him his head trainer at his wrestling academy. My question to you, Rudy, is what was it about you that Michael saw that made him trust you so much to put you in such a key position? I'm putting you on the spot now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not exactly sure how this came about. I just know that my phone rings, I pick it up, and like, hello? And the guy on the other end goes, is this Rudy? I said, yes. I said, Rudy, it's Shawn. I said, Shawn who? I said, Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
And knowing the business the way it is, I knew somebody was ribbing me.
Yep. They were trying to pull a joke on you, pulling your rib. Yep.
I said, whatever. I hung up. I hung up on Shawn. And we did this like 2 or 3 times. You know, who is this? It's Shawn. Shawn who? Shawn Michaels. Click. You know, and then, I mean, it got kind of nasty. You know, quit effing with me. You know, F you. And I hung up on him. And then finally he said, don't, you know, please listen to me. And he explained to me that he was going to start a wrestling school, and he wanted me to be one of the trainers.
Wow.
Again, you don't realize the enormity of it until it's actually happening. It was a phone call. I hung up the phone, like, you know, I said okay, and you know, let's see what happens. All right, and
essentially, here you are. You know what I mean? You're the trainer of champions.
And I want to be honest with you. Like I said, way back in the beginning, I wanted to be a coach, a high school coach. I even ran a little league high school football team.
Wow.
Wrestling was nowhere in the plan. And so somewhere along the way, I got sidetracked. I got into pro wrestling. Shawn offered me this opportunity for whatever reason. He told me later on, he saw me work throughout the years. He saw how I worked, my attitude with the doing the enhancement stuff. I never squawked at anything. I never, I can't do this.
You understood your role. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm back to training guys, and I loved it. I got to meet, the first group of guys we had was, the Fantastic Four: Brian Kendrick, Bryan Danielson, Lance Cade, and Shooter Schultz. And right from the gates, I mean, they didn't do any independent wrestling shows, or they worked for Shawn. Vince came down, and WWE came down, and they offered Shawn a spot to have some guys, do a tryout match, whatever. So Shawn asked me, "Who do you think deserves it?" And I pointed those guys out. And so, they were supposed to come. I think they came down on sometime in the middle of December, and Shawn got the word the middle of November. So, we pulled them to the side, and we told them, "Hey guys, we think you deserve whatever. So you've got a whole month to prepare." And those 4 kids just turned it up like 10 notches. They increased their cardio. They, the gym stuff, the ring stuff. It was on. And then when and then they put the matches together, and I would sit there and say, "Okay, Joe, don't do this. Try this instead, or don't do that, or try this, or don't try that." And if you were to watch, I think their tryout match is actually on the network.
Well, folks definitely have to check out the WWE Network and check out the tryout matches for the as you call them, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and so it was horrible. It was, and Brian will say the same thing. It was what it was. There's 4 kids, 4 green kids that. They had done some shows for Shawn. The biggest crowd they worked for was like 800 people when Shawn had his match with Paul Diamond, and Just Incredible was there. We had 800 people in the venue, and then a couple of months later they're in front of 18,000 in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
The boys will admit they were nervous. They were but once they got things going, they did real good, and then they got their contracts. Now. They got their developmental deals. Now, some guys will say, well, the only reason they got that was because of Shawn. And you know what? Maybe that's true. I don't think so, though, because if that was the case, WWE wouldn't have put up, hey, Shawn, we know these are your boys, but your guys are screwing up. We're going to fire them. They wouldn't have lasted this long.
That's true. That's true. And these are some of the guys who really have rebuilt the business in the past 16 years, if you really look at it. Let me ask you a question, Rudy. When it comes to being trained by somebody like Rudy Boy Gonzalez, what does a person who wants to break into the business, what are they getting from you that they may not get from Joe Schmo trainer?
Well, especially now, they're getting history. They're getting a lot of guys, like some guys just opened up a school a few weeks ago in Houston, and I think they're, the longest time any of those guys have in the business, 10 years.
Wow.
10 years is what?
I know, yeah. You're just getting started. Yeah.
Yeah, like somebody said, I remember back, I'm old school. I remember when Eric Bischoff, that's not old school. Old school is, I feel like I was blessed, and I try and bring that to my guys, that it's not, pro wrestling. It is what it is today, but there's a history to it. And I try and, I feel like if you don't understand the history of anything, football, wrestling, law, doctor, medicine, whatever, you're kind of like, you don't really get the whole deal. Mm-hmm. My path has crossed a lot of paths, from Luthez to Manny Fernandez to Adrian Street to, like you said earlier, a who's who of the wrestling business.
And you learned something from all of those folks, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
And I try and share that with my guys.
And let me tell you something, folks. Rudy, we've been talking about some of the folks that he's trained who have gone on and essentially have rebuilt the wrestling business. These are some of your biggest heroes of the past number of years here. But it has not stopped. In fact, there's a young lady by the name of Victoria Gonzalez, no relation. She is a talented, tall, athletic, fantastic talent, a lot of raw ability there. She's been knocking on the door of WWE for the past couple of years here. She tried out for Tough Enough. Unfortunately, she didn't make it, but she didn't give up. She's continued to push and push. And word on the street now is that the WWE is taking a second look at her, and we'll have to wait and see how that ends up. But what's interesting is that Victoria Gonzalez was trained by Rudy Boy Gonzalez. So when you take a look at somebody in the modern day who is still even getting looks by the big-time companies, how does that make you feel, Rudy?
Obviously I have a smile on my face. I hope she does well. I hope she goes on to down the same road that, the Becky Lynches and the Charlottes have gone down. Because I get the knock too. Well, the reason why those guys got signed was because of Shawn. You had nothing to do with it. But Shawn sat on the chair, and I'm not knocking Shawn at all. I love him to death, and I appreciate the opportunity he gave me. But I was the guy in the ring that was taking all the bumps and going through all the stuff with those guys and sitting down and teaching them and talking to them, traveling with them. I was like the big brother or the dad to some of those guys. I mean, I still have a relationship with Brian and Brian, and Lance Cade. Even though he got released, he would come in and train with us still.
Hey, I'll tell you, you're bringing up some great points. And in fact, if anyone were to take a look at comments that Daniel Bryan, in particular, when he speaks about his start in the wrestling business, he gives you a tremendous amount of credit. He essentially says, Rudy Boy Gonzalez taught me how to wrestle.
Sure.
I mean, and that's big.
And he didn't have to do that.
Yep.
He did it because, out of respect. It's actually what happened. I've seen a lot of guys, I know they're trained by somebody, and I'll ask them, who trained you? And for whatever reason, they'll mention every Tom, Dick, and Harry except for that guy that
really did it for them.
Right, exactly. Yep. They want to drop all the big name guys and forget about, Joe Schmo.
Which, the guy who was really in that ring day in and day out, grinding with them, taking the bumps with them and showing them the ropes, just like a Rudy Boy Gonzalez, I mean, you guys are the unsung heroes in the professional wrestling business. When it comes to a guy like Daniel Bryan, who you saw from day one, did you ever think when you saw this tiny, skinny kid who had this dream of being a pro wrestler, did you ever think that one day he would make it to the top of the mountain? He would be the number one guy in all of pro wrestling, be the top of the WWE, the champion. Did you see that in him back then?
In all honesty, no. No, not at all. I mean, remember back in he started. They came around in 1999.
Wow.
And there was the Undertaker. There was Kane.
Monsters.
Sid. Yeah. I mean, guys were sick. The word on the street was WWE didn't want to look at anybody, under 6 foot.
Mm.
Brian Kendrick and Brian Danielson, they're both like 5'8" or something. Not the biggest guys in the world. Shawn would tell him, I wasn't very big, but Shawn was still 6 foot.
He's still 6 foot, yeah.
Yeah, he still matched up to those guys a little bit. So we knew they were talented. And I always told Brian, all the guys, Michael, Shane,
Mm-hmm.
all the guys that weren't quite that tall. There's always Mexico. There's always Japan.
That's right.
Make a name for yourself, and if you're, if they see that you can make some money, I always tell everybody the same thing. If Vince McMahon sees he can make money off of you, he'll bring you in.
And you know something? It never before in the history of the business have we seen that more than today. Exactly. A lot of those guys who traveled around the world and made their bones around the world there, it's paying off for them in the big time now.
And so once again, back to the way it used to be. Back when guys, today a kid is in the area, a kid works out of San Antonio for 10 years, and then he wonders, nobody knows me. Well, because you never leave this area.
You got to move around.
You got to move, and that's the way it was back in the day.
Yeah.
You were in a territory for a certain long amount of time, and then you went somewhere else. Then you went somewhere else. Then you went somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You made a little name for yourself,
mm-hmm.
and then the bigger groups would look at you and bring you in. For a long time it wasn't like that. Now it's starting to. The guys, the AJ Styles, Bryan Danielsons, those guys that did travel and have gone around places and did whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys you see on TV.
Now, Rudy, the sacrifice in pro wrestling, whether you're a wrestler, trainer, what have you, there's a lot of time spent studying, scouting other talents, learning the craft. You never stop learning, what have you. It's a big sacrifice on the talent, and it's also a big sacrifice on their family as well. Can we give a shout out to some of your family members there?
Sure. I mean, my son Steve, my daughters Deanna and Jackie, they grew up, going to picnics, Easter egg hunts, birthdays, whatever, and I wasn't there. And I'll never, like I told my guys yesterday, I'll never make Father of the Year award. They dealt with all that stuff, and they, no matter whatever happened, Steve, my son, would always say, "Dad, I love you." And that, whatever happened when I was going through the hard times, that took care of everything. Or
Huge.
My daughters, "Dad, it's all right. We're still here for you." And even now, the bond has gotten tighter. So I mean, they've been pretty much the backbone of this whole deal. They've always been there for me.
That's huge.
Always.
That's huge. And in that case, they've always been there for us too as fans. So we definitely want to take the time to thank Rudy Boy Gonzalez, his family, his children. Thank you very much for sharing your dad with us, because in all honesty, without his hard work, there's no way the wrestling business would be in the healthy kind of shape that it is in right now and that it has been since he stepped foot in this business. So we really appreciate that. Rudy, once again, if anyone wants to get in touch with you and learn how to wrestle the right way, what is the best way they can get in touch with you?
Call me. My number is 210-326-1520. I'm here in San Antonio. Or they can send me an email, which is Texas Wrestling Academy _SA, not the SA like Eddie Guerrero SA, but SA like San Antonio at yahoo.com. Or just pull me up on Facebook. Texas Wrestling Academy has a Facebook page. I tell my guys the same thing. You come train here, and I can't make you any guarantees. I can't guarantee anybody anything. All I can do is show you how the stuff is done the right way, give you share my experiences with you, learn off of that, and when the opportunities arrive, whenever they come up, this part I can't guarantee you'll be that much more ready than the next guy.
Wow.
They don't bring that to the table like I do.
Wow.
I don't care who it is.
That's some profound stuff. Listen, we want to thank the trainer of champions, Rudy Boy Gonzalez, for all he's done for all of us as a wrestler and as a trainer. We definitely have an open door policy for you. We want to have you come back, Rudy, and share some more information on how folks can get into the wrestling business and talk about different trends that you see and things that the kids can focus on and what have you. So open door policy for you, and we thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, dude.
Up next, the Boston Bad Boy has more of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask Duke. But before we get to any of that, I want to remind you to head over to Barnyard Cheese. That's Barnyard Cheese at 149 Avenue C between 9th and 10th Streets in New York City. Boston Bad Boy, last week I told you about the Sexier Beast sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You
every
took credit
time,
for that.
every time I get so hungry now, this part of the show. And now we have a whole nother segment to go, and I'm starving.
Yep. Well, hey, we're about to make you even more starving because this week we're going to tell you about, now get this, the Figgy Piggy.
Oh, no, you're killing me.
Yeah, Figgy Piggy. Yeah, Figgy Piggy.
I'm guessing there's some pork involved.
Oh, listen, you got to check out these ingredients, man. Parma prosciutto.
Oh, the prosciutto.
That's right. There's your pork. Fig jam. And goat cheese, all on a soft olive oil bread.
Wow, that sounds like that would fit right into my Mediterranean diet.
Well, listen.
Of eating too much, of everything awesome.
You have your protein.
That's right.
You got a little sweet and savory all mixed in there with the fig jam.
And the olive oil is good for the hot.
Oh, absolutely. See? So it's perfect. It's healthy. Okay? Listen, that's a Portuguese-style bread, by the way.
And they do a good bread.
That's right. So stop depriving yourself of deliciousness. Visit barnyardcheese.com for more info. Enjoy.
You're locked in to Duke Loves Wrestling. Join Duke's Wrestling crew on Facebook for more exclusive content. Now, back to the show.
Wow, was that not an informative interview with our man Rudy Boy Gonzalez?
Yeah, that guy is the real deal.
Indeed.
Dropping names. Every time we interview somebody from back in the day, it's like, who's going to drop the most names? Who's wrestled with the most guys?
It's true.
And they all knew everybody.
And especially him. I mean, boy, because he's been in the business for so long, he literally has been around all of the who's who.
Right, and even up to current.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So shout out to Rudy Boy there. All right, what do you have for us this week for Ask Duke?
As always, we have the best segment of the show because it's the segment that I put together.
Hey, putting himself over again, folks.
I got notes. I got everything.
Oh,
here.
my goodness.
Yeah, you better be ready.
Let's go, wise guy.
All right. The first, you think I would have read my notes. This is the first question on Ask Duke comes from Young Marcus. Do you think is there an old Marcus? I'm just curious if we're differentiating between young and old.
What do we have? Old man Wade last week. So now you got young Marcus. What is this foolishness?
It's like the Sopranos over here. Yeah. All right. So young Marcus asks, "What do you think? Who do you think has a bigger upside, Naomi or Becky Lynch, and why?"
Ooh.
Now, does upside mean what it immediately came to mind?
Well,
I know you don't like the word blue, but
no, upside. I think he's talking about a brighter future in the business.
Ah, yes, of course.
And you know something, I'm a little concerned about this question because hey, I have a strong opinion about this young Marcus.
This is a surprise.
Yeah, it's a big surprise. Naomi absolutely, I feel, has a bigger upside than Becky Lynch. And let me tell you why. It has not as much to do with Naomi as it has to do with Becky Lynch. Naomi is very talented. She has a nice gimmick going on with the bright lights. She's doing the dancing thing and all that stuff. It's cool. Fans love her. Becky Lynch is so talented, but she has really taken a major leap back because it's almost like she's lost her confidence in the ring. I mean, she is just not getting it done out there, and I'm sorry. There's a reason why they never put the NXT title on her when she was down there, and there's a reason why she's probably never going to get the WWE Women's title. She just has lost her confidence. The fans want to cheer her. They want to get behind her, but then when she gets sloppy in the ring, it's like, what is going on here? You know? So I'm sorry. I'm hitching my wagon to Naomi and riding all the way to the top. And as for Becky Lynch, they may have to let her go in another year or so if she's going to keep this up.
Is it something that maybe if she had a better gimmick, it would cover the sloppiness?
I think so. I mean, she has
which I don't think is good for the business, but would it be better for the show?
Well, no, it's a better gimmick would make a lot of sense, and maybe that would boost her confidence a little bit because she has this steampunk thing going on, which is big in Ireland, which is where she's from, so I totally get it. But at this point, she's much better than what she's been putting out there in the ring. And it's a confidence issue, and she's brought that up before because when she first started with the company, she started off, and then she lost the confidence, and then she had to build herself back up. And it's like she's regressing. She's going back to those old bad habits, and it's terrible, man. Terrible to see.
All right, the next question comes from Katina Rice.
Katina Rice. That sounds like something that you'd buy at a grocery store. What is this?
Just two in a row. Again, another person with a name that sounds like something that was in a 60s television commercial.
I'm telling you, I mean...
Stop by your local grocer today and buy new rice pilaf from Katina Rice.
Are you done? I mean, come on. We don't
See, you do these bad impressions.
Yeah.
I know how to cut a promo, and that's how you really do it. And now you're crapping all over me? I don't think so.
You think you're some guy on TV or something, all right? Just come on.
All right, so her question is, are there any wrestlers who used to be in the WWE system that are now in TNA and you'd like to see them back in WWE?
Huh, that's a outside-the-box question. That's a good one. EC3 is at the top of my list. I mean, this guy, in fact, he's going to be wrestling at the Great San Antonio Bash against Carlito, which is pretty cool. But EC3... a lot of folks forget he was in the original NXT. I think it was either season 2 or season 3. Very good on the mic, great look, pretty good wrestler. If the WWE could get him back, I think there's dollar signs all over that guy. And the other ones are pretty obvious. The Hardy Boys, their gimmick with the broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero and all that stuff, there's something to it. I'd love to see them go up against the Wyatt family. I think there's dollar signs in that as well. So those would be my top picks for people that used to be in the WWE. If you brought them back from TNA, they would be money in the bank, so to speak.
All right, Katina, that apparently answers your question.
That's right.
Next question from Akila B.
What? Now, is that like the girl from the movie Akila and the Bee?
Or is it like Akila Bee, like Killa?
Is it pronounced there Killa? You go. The Killer Bees, the Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah, there you go.
Wow, we have some real famous people listening.
I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you. Makes sense to me.
All right, so she asks, if you could sit down and have a conversation with anyone in the wrestling business, past, present, I'm going to add in living or dead, who would it be and why? She says her choice would be the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah. Macho Man.
All right, that's all right.
Yeah,
that's
you like that one, huh?
You might have something there, but you need about 10 years more practice. Just answer the damn question.
All right. Well, my answer to this question is probably going to take a lot of folks by surprise. You ready for this?
Yes.
Linda McMahon.
Interesting.
Vince McMahon's wife, Linda. Yep. Now, hear me out, folks.
Right.
This sounds kind of strange. And, she is living, by the way. Let's just get that out there.
I'm sure she appreciates you clarifying that.
Yeah, seriously. Linda McMahon.
Can I just say, as a quick aside, one day in my radio career, we were talking on the air during a snowstorm, and we said, wow, if only the great Shelby Scott was here to help us with this thing, and we made it sound like she had passed away. And she hasn't. I believe she's still with us.
You were terrible.
And we felt really bad. We actually went on air again and said, Shelby's still with us, and we would still like her to come on the show.
Oh.
I mean, she's advanced in age at this point, but we actually. This is the only time I really felt bad about saying something on the radio.
Did she ever come on the show?
No. I'm sure.
I wonder why.
I'm sure we're blacklisted.
Give me a break.
From weather reports from the great Shelby Scott.
Well, I can assure you that the wonderful Linda McMahon, she's still living and she's still kicking butt out there. The reason why I say Linda McMahon, she is a former president and former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment. She was there every step of the way with her husband. And let me tell you something, man. She is a powerhouse in business, okay? She understood the entertainment business inside and out. And you don't have World Wrestling Entertainment, the multi-billion-dollar business that is all over the world. You don't get that without the guidance of a Linda McMahon. So I would love to just sit down and pick her brain, talk about the early days of the company, what she had to sacrifice in order to get them to the point where they're this worldwide entertainment company. I mean, I think she'd be very interesting, very engaging, and we always hear from everybody else's perspective. Let's hear it from Linda.
Well, and also, she's a woman who's been in it from pretty much the beginning.
Absolutely, at the highest level.
And now there are women
Yep.
as a major, major feature, where for years it wasn't. And it'd be interesting to hear her perspective on that. So
also
I will agree with your response.
To be a top executive, a female,
just
in the 80s.
in any business.
In the 80s and the 90s, to be a female top executive of such a major corporation, she's fantastic.
Talk about male-dominated.
Absolutely.
Sport and business.
And what's cool is that her daughter Stephanie is following in her footsteps.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Stephanie McMahon, forget about the character that you see on TV, folks. Stephanie McMahon, the businesswoman, she is a powerhouse. And I'm telling you, anything that she wants to do in life, if she wanted to be queen of the universe, she could do it, because she's that serious, man. That's right.
All right. Well, enough of this corporate love fest.
Oh, boy.
Because it's this part of the show is my question.
Oh, my Buddha. Here we go.
All right. So it requires a little setup here. I'm going to lead you down the primrose path.
Just please.
So Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Okay.
Not something to be taken lightly.
No, I love PWI.
Yeah. And so they do the PWI 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ranking all of the wrestlers in the world.
That's right.
All right. They collectively do it. The list came out. Number one spot, Roman Reigns. And I knew you were going to say that.
Disgusting.
I knew you were going to just have this disgusted outfall.
Oh, boy.
And I want to know, very simply, what your problem is. Why you have a problem with Roman Reigns. Because the guy has earned his spot, okay? He was the WWE champion, and if that's not good enough to earn the top spot in the world,
oh, boy.
What else? What the hell else do you want?
Let me tell you something, okay? First and foremost, and let me preface my comments here, please.
Go ahead.
He comes from a major family, the Samoans and Alpha and Sika and all that stuff there. I don't want anybody to come beat me up here.
Well,
okay?
That's been coming for a while.
I got to put that out there. But let me tell you something. Roman Reigns is a punk, okay? Let me start off with that. He's a punk because everything he's ever had in this business was handed to him.
Oh,
on
get
a
out of here.
silver
Get
platter.
out of here.
The guy...
First of all, let's start with the premise that anybody that steps in that ring has anything handed to them.
Give me a
Let's
break.
start off
No,
right
no,
there.
no.
So let's say that's a no,
No.
okay? That's an absolute no. And you I love how you use the whole, well, he comes from the Samoan. These guys work their tail off and have for generations.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right. These
so
guys.
he knows a work ethic.
No.
He knows how to get in the ring and he knows how to earn it.
This guy's been living off of his family's legacy.
Oh, get
and
outta
he managed to ride that wave all the way to the top. Let me tell you something. He didn't have to go on the indie scene and bust his hump all over the world like the Daniel Bryans and the CM
look where that got
Punks
him. Look
and
where
all
that
over
he
the
can't
world.
even again, the guy's going to be a vegetable if he lands on his head again.
This Roman Reigns, he's a punk. He's been living off his family's values there. And unfortunately, for the rest of us, we have to sit there
I want to ask you
watch
something.
this guy.
What else? All right, let's just put another blank name in there. Blank, blank, blank is number one in the world.
Yeah.
What else could they... If their only qualification was that they are the WWE champion, that's on their resume.
Okay.
That should qualify them enough. And I'm going to give you I'm going to give you an analog here. When a team wins the Super... No, I'm going to use baseball. When a team wins the World Series, They are the world champions, right?
Okay.
Now, a player will be the MVP of the World Series. They are the arguably the number one player in the world champions team in a series that's played exclusively in America. Okay? So, if they're the best of the best, are they going to name some guy from Cuba or some guy from the Philippines who's a baseball player? Are they going to make him? Is Sports Illustrated going to make him the best baseball player in the world?
No,
they're going to make
the
guy.
He should be.
No, they're going to make the guy who won.
Oh my God!
In the league that people know about, and they're going to make him number one.
Congratulations,
because that's who the fans want.
Now, welcome to pro wrestling, where Vince McMahon decides who he's going to hitch his wagon to, and decides who's going to be the number one guy and have the title. And let me tell you something, pal.
Wait,
Roman
that's
Reigns
not what we're talking
is not
about
the
here.
best wrestler. Roman Reigns is not the most experienced. Roman Reigns doesn't even evoke.
He's
the
not
best.
he's one of the new kids. He gets a pretty
he's
face.
one of the new punks who
Is
has
it because
not...
he looks better with his shirt off than you? I think it comes down to that.
Hey,
I think it comes down.
hey.
He's a waxed chest.
Give me
He's
a
a good-looking guy.
Give
and you're
me
just
a
jealous.
break. No.
And don't give me this whole thing.
Wait.
Oh, he's only been in 6 years. He hasn't cut his teeth. Let's go back to your friend Daniel Bryan, who we had talked about last week.
That's right.
And the guy can't wrestle anymore. He's done.
Hey.
He killed himself slowly over 10, 15 years. He can't wrestle anymore. What good is he to anybody?
Earned everything, and that's just
Earned what?
one
He
example.
earned a space to be sitting there and walk off a
Give me
set
a break.
because somebody didn't like what he said about him. He ran away.
You know what the difference between Daniel Bryan, guys like him, and guys like punks like Roman Reigns
Roman
is?
Reigns can still wrestle. That's the difference.
no,
Roman Reigns can go out there and he can win.
It's very easy to go out there and still be able to wrestle when you're sitting there violating the WWE substance policy. That's what Roman Reigns did. He's on the juice. That's why he's able to recover. And once again,
That's
everything
total
handed
BS.
to this guy.
It's total BS.
Okay?
On one hand, you're telling me everything is handed to this
That's
guy.
right.
And on the other hand, he's been set up by the WWE
What?
to take a phony fall for some bogus wellness.
Gotta be kidding
And what
me right
happened? He
now.
lost the title.
That's right.
He lost the title. They set him up to fail. And guess what? The magazine realizes the guy's value.
No, the magazine thinks that here's what they did.
One.
Here's what they did. They knew that purists like myself were going to lose our mind because they put a punk. They put a punk like Roman Reigns on the cover of their magazine. He's a juiced up.
Either way, you
no
can't win
good
because
punk.
you're saying you were played. Either way, you can't win this argument because either the guys shouldn't be there or you got played by the company you're so quick to defend.
Number one, the guy shouldn't be there. He shouldn't even be in the business at this point because he's so terrible. That's number one. Number two, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, you disgraced yourself by putting this guy on the top. I'm telling you, Bill Apter, who's still alive, by the way, he's rolling.
Clarifying who's still alive.
He's rolling in his ready-made grave, which he probably won't have to go to for another 50 years, but he is just beside himself because the magazine that he started put Roman Reigns on the cover as the number one guy in the world.
All right, who should be the number one guy in the world? And if you say Daniel Bryan, I'm going to put
Daniel
you in
Bryan is not wrestling anymore. Give me a break. I'll tell you right now. I'll give you at least 3 guys.
No, I want one guy. I don't want to hear your dissertation on everybody you think should be there instead of him. Because I want to see if you have any kind of a valid response to what I'm asking you here, which since to now you have not.
The man who's going to beat Dean Ambrose at the next pay-per-view Clash of Champions, I'm talking about AJ Styles, the face that runs the place.
Come on.
Okay? The guy that beat up John Cena, the guy that traveled all over the world, won championships everywhere, the most decorated wrestler going today. I'm talking about AJ Styles.
He's missing one decoration, which is to be number one on the PWI 500 list.
My
Where
goodness.
does I don't have the list in front of me. Where does AJ rank on that list? It doesn't really matter because no one's talking about it. What we're talking about who's number one because number one is what counts around here.
You know what? You're beside yourself here. I think you bumped your head or something.
No,
if you're defending a punk like Roman Reigns,
you're defending.
You're
not
out of
only are
your
you
mind.
defending the conspiracy of the WWE, you're defending the conspiracy, and you're also saying you went along for the ride.
You know what?
So you know what? You're a patsy on both counts.
This is it right
you
here,
disgust
folks.
me.
When
Get
this
outta
guy
here.
starts talking conspiracy, it's time to get out of here because he's lost it. He's completely lost. He's defending the punk like Roman Reigns. I can't take it anymore. We're pulling the plug, folks. Folks, thank you very much to Rudy Boy Gonzalez for joining us today. You can always hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter. Just type in Duke Loves Wrestling. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with the Boston Bad Boy and his support for that punk Roman Reigns? Do you agree with the Duke? Come on, let us know. Join us next week as we'll have another fantastic guest. And we're going to have to get this guy some help because he's like the president of the Roman Reigns fan club.
No, I'm not. I don't even like the guy, but I think it's wrong. You're just taking a baseless stance against him.
You don't
have no idea what you're doing.